The breakdown is afoot. Welcome to this Enola Holmes 2 breakdown, historical inspirations, and review. There will be spoilers, so be warned. At the end of the last movie, we saw Enola save the day, and Tewkesbury, after his grandmother wanted to stop him from working on social reform. Social reform plays a big part of this movie as well towards the end, and Tewkesbury is in the House of Lords trying to make sure things change, which is why the missing Sarah Chapman went to help him. Her mother was missing but found as well at the end of the last movie, as she left so as not to involve Enola in the dangerous ways she wanted to get women's suffrage, aka women the vote, and sadly plays a very minimal role in this movie. However, she does play a vital role in breaking our girl Enola out of jail, but she would have to wait almost 20 years until 1918 before women over the age of 30 could vote. Enola decided to strike out on her own and rebukes her brother Sherlock's offer of being a guardian, and she goes on her own to start her own detective agency, hoping to be part of the great detectives like her brother. However, as she is young and a female, this fails spectacularly as no one wants to hire her because the view back then were pretty archaic and her business is a failure. It's here a young girl named Bessie comes to her for help to find her sister, except it's actually a friend and co-worker at the Lion's Match factory. Sarah Chapman had gone missing and had stolen documents from that factory. It's a case that speaks to Enola, who takes it on at once. It's also an inspiration for her to add a pay what you can clause at the end of the movie when she reopens her agency. Now Enola heads there to find out more about what could have happened and she went missing. We get a clue to the real reasons as she went missing at the start of the factory workday, as Enola looks into everything and the women are checked for typhus, which has been afflicting women and killing them. However, in reality, this is actually phosphorus poisoning, which has been killing the girls. The factory owner and Lord McIntyre had engaged in a deep corruption. Lion changed the materials in the matches, which, while it quadrupled the profits, is incredibly toxic and was killing people. This clue is heard when the Lord toasts the factory owner, mentioning the changing of red, black and white, and they knew the materials were toxic. The conditions in the factory were appalling, and this has basis in reality, as this whole plot and case was inspired by real-life workers. Workers at the Bryant and May factory in London were experiencing what was known as phossy jaw, caused by the necrosis of the jaw by phosphorus as a result of, yes, like I said, the toxic white phosphorus and being let go left, right and centre. Now, the women went on strike after certain people were sacked, and the MP Charles Bradlaugh spoke in Parliament about the issue. The women wanted better working conditions, but they would not stop using white phosphorus until 1901. Enola starts to pull at these threads, but Sherlock has his own case, which ends up dovetailing and connecting into Enola's. She has been hired by the government to investigate missing documents and ends up uncovering a money siphoning scheme that is incredibly complex. Enola starts pulling at the threads one by one after the factory and heads to the music hall where Sarah worked and is threatened by May, as, well, they're probably wary of outsiders. But the first major clue comes by way of a love letter and meeting place. Initially, she thought that the flower was a poppy, but it works out that it's a sweet William, and it's all a coded message between lovers, and she has her own code name, which we found out at the end was Cicely, sometimes named Sweet Cicely, so the pet names match up. William is initially thought to have been the killer, but Enola was very, very wrong, as William was actually working with Sarah to bring the corruption to light. It was William who stole the papers from the government, proving his father and McIntyre's corruption, and they all wanted to bring them to Lord Tewkesbury, who could speak to this in the House of Lords. Someone is orchestrating this whole damn escapade. Enola learns all this after speaking with her brother after she's framed for the murder of May and heading when she went to the address there. The chief super is on the whole thing and looking to kill Sarah for bringing all this to light, but he's actually under the payment of Moriarty. More on that in a bit. However, a spanner is thrown in the works as Enola is arrested, only to be saved instantly by her mother, which was weird as this is a small speed bump on her case when the threat of her being arrested was throughout the whole movie. It just felt really whack to me. However, Enola works out that Sarah, William and May were all investigating the phosphorus. Despite William being higher status, he was in love with her. She's been under her nose this whole time, meeting her at the dance hall, and goes back to the factory meeting her. He has worked out that all of the bank's money being siphoned were all deposited around the factory, and they find William dead. The music played earlier was actually a map to where the documents were kept. After a fight there, we get our reveal. And it's a bad one, in my opinion. McIntyre's assistant, Miss Troy, was behind the whole mess of hunting Sarah and William. She wasn't necessarily part of the corruption, but she was taking money from the profits from the factory, and if the documents were to be found, she would lose her payday. So this Moriarty didn't seem like a threat similar to the other ones we've had, obviously most notably in the Sherlock show with Martin Freeman and Benedict Cumberbatch. She did all this as she has such low status and born with no advantage. A hypocrisy McIntyre notices when he says, "How dare you abuse your position?" when he did that to create this phosphorus scheme. If you're unaware in the lore, Moriarty is the arch rival to Sherlock Holmes and one of the greatest villains of all time. I found this part to be totally cringe, and she explains she did all this, she has no advantages, and it just felt a bit weak in my opinion. I want this to be a psychopath. But she's arrested, but she escapes later, as we saw, as McIntyre burns the proof, but he can't stop the strike, just like what happened in real life. Now, Tewkesbury and Enola are now together, and she reopens her agency. Now, this sets us up for Moriarty if there is to be an Enola Holmes 3. Now, in a sort of post-credits scene, we actually get to see the culmination of the meeting at 4 p.m. And instead of herself, Enola actually sends Dr. Watson, who you may know obviously as Holmes and Watson. Yes, this is his sidekick, his ward, his absolute crutch there, that she sent to him, setting up this. While we had Moriarty, we've now got Watson. He's played by Himesh Patel, who you may recognise from Yesterday, but well, I think that's a really cool scene, and I would love a Henry Cavill-focused Sherlock Holmes movie. Overall, I found this to be a bit of a nothingy movie. It just did not click with me. I found it kind of fast going. We never really got much weight to it. They never felt like there was any threat all that much, in my opinion. But let me know what you think down below. Do drop a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.